Bam! What is going on, folks? MC is in the house. My name is Justin Garcia, also known as Master Chim, and welcome to the Warrior Stream. I am here every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time, deep diving on a topic of interest to those of you that follow me. Today we have a pretty good topic, 10 ways men love self-sabotage. But before we get into it, let's cover some bases here. Number one, you can look at the links down in the description. I'm streaming on YouTube, a couple of Facebook pages, Twitter, or X, whatever you're calling it now. And at the top of those links, you will see my new community, online community, Three Roads Tribe. It's the URL right here also. You can go there, $9 a month. Check it out. You don't like it, don't join next month for $9. But it's the best $9 you will invest in yourself. It's all about creating trainings, keeping focused, keeping the energy up, sharing your journey with like-minded individuals who are on the path to climbing their own personal ladder and mountain of self-power. So let's see who's here. What is going on? Judge Cohen in the house. What's up, brother, man? Jesse, good afternoon to you. Jay Figs, what's up from New Jersey? Good to hear from you. Been a minute since I've seen you. Glad to see you well. Aaron, what's up, darling? Up in Canada. Good to see you. Another good group as usual. So I decided to actually, Derek, what's going on, brother, man? I decided to actually do a little bit of organization this morning and prompt what these things are. Just to let you know, this list I started this list on the emails, right? So the daily emails. Go to masterchim.com, links in the description. Get on my free daily emails. But originally I decided to do a countdown, which is something that I've done many times over the course of the last couple of years on the emails, but make this a countdown. And I had done number 10 on Monday. I had done 9, counting down, on Tuesday, yesterday. Today I decided, you know what? I want to do it live. I haven't done a live countdown in a while. Usually I'm sort of freestyling during these videos, but wanted to switch it up a little bit. So I'm going to start from 10, even though those emails are out there. I'm going to start from 10 and work my way down to 1. Now, what's up, Willie? What's up, Jamie? Now, words mean things. Something I'm pretty much a stickler about, and where the title of this is concerned, let's break it down very quickly. 10 ways, pretty self-explanatory. Men, does this apply to women? Well, some of it, most of it, maybe all of it, but women are not the ones that I'm addressing this to. I'm not the guy to help women increase their path. That's not my mission. There are plenty of women who benefit from the information I put out there. But I think the most direct way that I help women, looking at, the totality of what I do, is in fixing their men, right? So let's stick with that. So love, 10 ways men love self-sabotage. Love, what does that mean? Love is a very specific term and a concept that I've spoken about before. When I say that you love something, I describe it as being something that you have internalized as a component, a necessity in order to be who you are. If we lose something we love, there is a gap, a void that needs to be filled. That's where a lot of trauma tends to occur in an individual. So when I say love, these are things that I'm saying that men have integrated into their very identity. That without these things, they might feel like lesser versions of themselves, right? And then finally, self-sabotage. Well, the presumption when using the term self-sabotage is that there was a mission that could be sabotaged in the first place. So that's one of the things that I'm sort of offering as sort of just a gift in this scenario. I'm operating under the assumption that there is a path that you're on that could be sabotaged, to begin with. And where that's concerned in the context of how I'm describing what the sabotage of that mission would be, the mission would be something that results in you improving your life, whether that's making more money, becoming more, the integrity of your identity being bolstered, being able to deal with the stresses of your life, whether it's finding a sort of consistent formulaic approach in your relationships so that you are maintaining the synergy of those connections in your life. Whatever that happens to be, these positive outcome type missions are the ones that I am describing as what could be sabotaged. So 10 ways men love self-sabotage. Johnny Groob in the house. What's up? Rockstar, what up? And Corey, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you, my friend. Good to see you again. So let's get it popping. So at some point, I'm probably going to fuck up one of these buttons, so don't judge me. But I did the tedious work of writing down 10 of these things as I go down them, right? So let's start with number 10. Bam! Running on pain. One of the ways men love to self-sabotage is running on pain. Now, this is one of the things that I described in the email, so I'm going to share some of that right now in the intention of being consistent, if nothing else. But running on pain is when a man takes what hurts him to motivate his movement. Men need fuel, but too often we rely on fuel from dark places and wonder why its residue is damaging. Running on pain doesn't build a man, as its mission is to destroy the external reminders of a past we no longer have access to. So, what am I describing here? When we're running on pain, we're using a set of circumstances that we took a snapshot of. We've already passed that. It is now in our past. So what remains is the story we choose to tell ourselves. And the narrative and the energy that narrative creates is what we're using to fuel ourselves. But it's not based on a forward-looking perspective. It's not based on where is it that I'm going toward. It's a form of what am I getting away from? Even if that form is taking the shape of, I'll show them, I'll show him. That sort of narrative, don't get me wrong, that will motivate the fuck out of somebody. But it is a fuel that does not burn clean. The last thing that I shared in that particular email was never anchor yourself to something ugly and expect to reach beautiful destinations. So that is running on pain. Let's move to the next thing. I think I got it figured out, guys. Number 9, trying to stay undefeated. So this is also one of the emails that I sent out, and I want to use that to frame my take on this. So trying to stay undefeated is when a man creates the story in his head that masks the real saboteur, which is his fear of failing, right? His fear of failing. The only real way men stay undefeated is to never move out of their comfort zone in the beginning. The problem, of course, is that this is where 100% of the growth for a man occurs. True defeat, then, in the context of forging one's freedom, can only be seen when a man becomes so intimidated by the chance of failure that he dares not try at all. And the parting sentiment that I had in this email describing this self-sabotaging way is, masters of any discipline have built a relationship with how to get it right and how to get it wrong, enabling them to choose a path of progress, right? So if you guys remember in TRIBALNOMICS, my book, hopefully you guys have purchased and read it, but if you remember, I talk about the wall of identity, right? And it could be at the scale of the self, it could be at a tribe, but the wall is basically, this is when we're doing the things that make us us, and everything outside of the wall, therefore, would be things that aren't us. I am this, I am not everything outside of it. Well, when we're trying to stay undefeated, what winds up happening is, in order to avoid failure, we wind up just closing that circle and making it smaller and smaller because we have to control the potential, the possibilities, the exposure to vulnerabilities that might result in failure. So when we're trying to stay undefeated, we wind up just becoming smaller and smaller individuals as a result, right? So next, the blurry maps. The blurry maps. Now, the blurry maps is the concept is individuals, when you ask them what they're doing with their lives, what they're trying to accomplish, what their mission is, the answer you get is very abstract. The answer they give you really gives them, as you could see it, no way to sort of win. When somebody has a blurry map, they don't know where they are on it at all times. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what the outcomes are going to be. One of the things that I've done in my coaching program over the years is, when I'm talking to an individual, some sort of business owner, entrepreneur, one of the first things that we try to get around is, well, what do you do, and for whom? Do you do it? And well, I like to help people when, what people? Well, just anybody that, well, okay, but have you done this before? Yeah. Well, who is it that you're helping? Look at the people that you've helped so far. What do they look like? What are some of the characteristics? And whatever that process winds up being, it's really oftentimes you could tell the first time that they ever thought about their map with any degree of specificity. So in lieu of that, what we have are individuals that are, sort of acting as if they are enlightened and living in the moment, but with absolutely none of the tools that comes along with reaching that level of development at an individual scale. So you have somebody, what are you trying to do with your life? And it's like, I don't know, not get fired, not go hungry, and stay warm in the winter and cool in the summer. Like, they don't really understand what that is. So if we're talking about a way that men love self-sabotage, they build a relationship where they're okay with having this blurry map. Now, just to add a little context to that, it doesn't fucking matter if your map is accurate. It doesn't matter if you have a 10-step path to get to where you want to go, and on step 2, you're already in a different direction. That's fine. All that tells me is that it's a good thing you had step 1 to reach step 2, at which point you had the information to pivot and go in another direction, right? In my power program, Mission Mastery, the video, The Bumpy Road, describes this phenomenon. You see, it is a mistake. It is a misconception to think that the plan that we have, the clear map that we draw, needs to be accurate and needs to culminate in the outcome that we're anticipating from the beginning, from the starting line. Like, we're not going to know at the beginning the things we're going to learn along the way. So of course it's natural we're going to make pivots or power detours, as I call them in that video. But the whole thing is to start out with enough clarity that your movement has purpose, your movement has intent, right? Going with the flow sounds great, but when you take inventory of what an individual's desires are, what is his big, what are the outcomes that he wants, it's really going with the flow is not a place to get there. Because if you're somebody that says, oh, I just go with the flow, well, then don't tell me that you have any goals in life or aspirations, or you'd really want to acquire something in the future, because that's pretty specific for somebody who doesn't want any specificity. So the blurry map is definitely something that will sabotage an individual's progress. All right, let me catch up on these comments here. Cherrytown Vibe, what up? Big Derek, good to see you. Eugene, good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. One of the best promoters in the game right there, guys. Eugene Perez. Aaron Martin says playing it safe. Yeah, and that was for number 9, trying to stay undefeated. Absolutely right. Okay, so that was Blurry Maps. Let's get on to number 7. Number 7, scared of being the guy. Now, what does that mean, scared of being the guy? Scared of being the guy is a fear of success. It's counterintuitive, right? It seems almost paradoxical, this idea that, well, I want to succeed. And at some point it's like, I'm not really sure how much more I want to succeed than I am now. And maybe that's not something that you consciously, conclude, but you could see it manifest in your actions. You could see it manifest in the ways that people's enthusiasm starts to decrease over time. Everything that they were running on all cylinders, all of a sudden that sort of energy arc drops, and they're not really getting after it the way they were. Well, why is that? Well, I saw this phenomenon in my martial arts school time and time again. An individual would be super enthusiastic in the beginning, but then after a while, not only is he getting better in the martial arts, but tribally, he's starting to have more status as a result of that. And it gets to the point where he's like, I don't want that status. I don't want people relying on me, or I don't want to feel obligated to have to sort of pass these things on to people that are underneath me in the ladder. Ironically, the way that everybody above them always passed it down to them along the way. But this idea of being scared of being the guy is, it's the whole Spider-Man, Uncle Ben line there. With great power comes great responsibility. Well, we have to understand that being successful means you're going to be in a place that does not resemble the one you're in right now. It's not supposed to be the same. It's not supposed to be, as comfortable as this environment that you're in, this ecosystem that you're in right now. This ecosystem will become more and more comfortable the more capable you become. Well, sometimes we become so comfortable because we've improved our capabilities that we forget that we started improving them because we didn't want to be in this situation to begin with, right? It's like, well, what if you're hanging out with a bunch of losers, but suddenly you're the leader of the loser and have all these other benefits that are involved? It's like, well, maybe the first premise was I shouldn't be in this situation to begin with, but you sort of lost your way because you've gotten this reward. And how do you continue to go to new levels of your own development? Well, number one, you understand that each one is going to represent an ecosystem that you may be not familiar with. And you're going to have to be familiar with it. You're going to have to invest in building a relationship with what those other levels look like, because you have already come to the conclusion that you didn't want to be in the one that you started in, right? So when we see somebody who's scared of being the guy as a form of self-sabotage, it's the individual who sort of shies away from doing his best. Or maybe, if he doesn't give enough or give as much as necessary, he understands why he didn't make it. And then maybe that's the only way that in his mind, he can maintain control over his life. I didn't start that business because, I didn't feel like it, or I didn't, and he'd rather have that narrative than actually try and have all the pressures of being the guy that's in the middle of that situation, right? Again, counterintuitive thing. It's one of these things that a lot of people don't necessarily expect, when it comes to improving. But I've seen it time and time again. People, it's hard for them to understand the very nature of progress. It's like there's more people at the bottom of the mountain than there are at the peak. It's just the way it is. That's why there's not that much space up there, because there doesn't need to be any more space than is there, because not everybody's going to make it. So as you start moving up, you got to get used to that. Being the guy requires, the evolution of an individual's relationship with himself and with his alliances. It's just the way it is, right? Comments on here. What up? What's up, Big Fred? What's up, Stellan? Good to see you. Let's move on. Number 6 in the ways men love self-sabotage: sucking on comfort's teat. I use the ladder analogy a lot, right? The ladder metaphor, what have you. This idea of climbing. You can't climb the ladder while keeping a foot on the floor. At some point, having progress is going to require pressure. It's going to require pressure in the form of uncertainty, in the form of a loss of status. Big fish, small pond. That big fish goes to the big ocean and he realizes he's actually a small fish. There's all sorts of sacrifices that are made when we are improving ourselves. And sacrifice is a word that I use, with purpose. Sacrifice is something whereby we invest a component of who we are and what we have in the promise of receiving more in return. It's the ROI, the return on investment. And when we sacrifice a component of who we are, we understand that it is to a process that represents growth. Well, here's the thing. If we become addicted to being comfortable in the process, at some point, we're just not going to want to invest anymore. There are people who in this day and age, and I guess this could be said at any point, throughout history, it's never been more inherently comfortable to be alive than it is right now. You hear stories, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. You look at the history of the humans, evolution into society, the way we understand it today, and it's nothing if not a raising of the general, average level of comfort in individuals' lives. People become more comfortable. We have people that are below the poverty line today that are living more comfortably than royalty may have lived 1,000 years ago. It's just the nature of progress on a global scale. It's the way these things work. So from an individual standpoint, we have to understand that the level of comfort, we like the idea of comfort, our relationship with comfort needs to be put aside when assessing the path that we're supposed to be traveling to improve ourselves as individuals, to climb our ladders, to trek and climb up our mountains. Comfort is a secondary notion where that's concerned. In a recent email, and it'll take me too long to find it, so I'll just try and paraphrase myself. But for the quote of the day, I said in the email, replace every pressure that the comfort of process removed, comfort of progress removed. So as we get better, there were things that were pressuring us that now sort of dissipate and become comfortable. That pressure needs to be replaced. And it's not just to make sure that we continue moving forward, that we continue advancing. It's also making sure that we don't become addicted to sucking on comfort's teat. A lot of people like being comfortable. I've used before as a metaphor, comfort or achieving your goal, let's just say, and I would use comfort in this vein as well, is sort of like a tree in the woods that we see it, we're getting towards it, and then as soon as we're there, we take that moment to enjoy it, but then we move forward. So that level of comfort is now something that once we acquired, we now passed because we've replaced it with the next step in the next rung in the ladder. Right? It's a process that's never ending. We're always going to be comfortable. It's something that as people, it's one of the reasons life is so incredible. It's like, yeah, we could take comfort in so many things that are available to us every single day. We have to be careful just how reliant upon those comforts that we become, lest we self-sabotage. All right. Let's move on to the next thing here. All right. I'm doing all right with these buttons here. Number 5, taking time for granted. Taking time for granted. I'm 48 right now. And I've been 29 for 19 years. I'm 48. And every day I wake up going, fuck, it's another day gone. It's like, I got to get going. I got to do this stuff. There's just this drive when it comes to my relationship with time where I'm constantly like in a rush because I feel like I'm running out of time. And it's something that I battle. Sometimes I go too far the other direction and I like, oh shit, I got to get this thing going. And so this idea of building a functional, productive relationship with time is a perennial, struggle in my life. as I think, and I think that's a good thing, right? Because I'm constantly aware of it. If we are not grateful for something, we are entitled to it. Well, when it comes to time, too many men take time for granted. You look at the explosion now, and I don't think this is a new thing, but certainly with social media and everything, it's become more prominent. This idea of the pursuit of longevity. You see the guy that millionaire, billionaire dude who has like this experiment of his life, and the guy looks like he looks like he's got problems. I'll just put it that way. But he's trying to live forever, and he's doing all these science-based things. And when I look at how people waste time, it makes sense why they want to fucking live forever. Some of the men out there, like, you guys take time for granted in such a way. It's like, yeah, it makes sense you're scared of dying because you got so much shit you still have to do because you waste so much fucking time as a result. When you guys wake up, right, there's an idea, this concept, what is it called? Doom scrolling, death scrolling, doom scrolling. I think it's been referred to as both. But it's this idea that psychologists have an opinion on. This is something that psychologists study now. The avoidance mechanism of an individual going and looking at social media and scrolling down social media to avoid what's going on in the real world, which leads to depression. It just makes everything worse, is the point. My whole thing is, you don't need to study how doom scrolling will start to adversely affect anything that you're trying to do in terms of progress in your life. You don't even need to get to that application. You could just look at the general universal observation of, I cannot take time for granted. Every day that I am here, I need to be grateful for, and I need to show my gratitude in treating that time as valuably as it's supposed to be, as it is, right? So number 5, one of the just biggest ways that I see men self-sabotage. It's like, man, you guys seem to think you got forever to do this shit, and you don't. And it's not just your life. It's, the guys that I've worked with in my coaching program, a very common theme with a lot of them is like, yeah, you're working, you're doing all these great things. Like, how many years do you think your kid's going to be a kid? How many years do you think he's going to be looking to you to help mold his relationship with what's going to be his life and his journey? Do you think you could come back when he's 15 and make up for everything that was supposed to happen during those 15 years? It's not the way this works, right? So there are a lot of things where when it comes to time that we tend to take for granted, and we sabotage the pursuit of our mission as a result of that, right? All right. That being said, number 4, waiting for the right time. Waiting for the right time. This is procrastination. This is analysis paralysis, right? This is, I'm just going to get it a little better before I go. I'm just going to get it. I just want to make sure now's not the right. It's like most of the time, earlier on when I was talking about the blurry maps, and I made a reference to one of my videos, the bumpy road video, one of my power programs. And I talked about, listen, it might be step 2 or 3 that you're like, you know what? I actually got to go this way. And I said that that's completely fine, because I said that's the value of at least having step 1 and 2 in that case. You need 1 and 2 in order to be able to go. Well, when it comes to waiting for the right time, it's like you got to understand, you wouldn't even know what the fucking right time is. The only way you're going to know what the right time is to build a relationship with whatever it is you are trying to accomplish. So waiting for the right time is based on a story that really comes down to, you're just scared to fucking go. You're just scared to go. This is why we procrastinate. This is why when there's something that we have to do, we put it off to the last second. Some people need the pressure. I'll be honest. I'm a guy. I thrive under the pressure of a time crunch. Like emergencies, game on. I'm at my high state. I am ready to rock. A lot of times I have self-sabotaged when it came to waiting for the right time, because I just knew, no, when I ain't got no time left, that's when I'm going to do my best work. Not the easiest way to live, by the way, right? I like those other times where I'm able to, all right, I need to get this thing done, and boom, I go and do it. It's done. I don't have to worry about it. And maybe now I have some more time to actually improve upon it, right? So when we're waiting for the right time, it's really just a story that stops movement. Movement is mandatory, if you haven't heard. So you got to ask yourself, am I legitimately waiting for a time that I know is going to be ideal? Or am I just feeling the pressure of an uncertainty that's represented in this thing that I just can't seem to pull the trigger on? In my experience, both individually and working with dozens of men specific to this one issue, it's usually they're just scared to pull the trigger, and they have a whole story to justify why they don't. And the story is all bullshit. Get it done. Everybody that I know that's any master or expert in any field, discipline, industry, it's like they have at 10 times the stories of fucking things up than they do the stories of getting it right. And that's just the nature of the process. It's how it works. Waiting for the right time is like saying I'm waiting to try and be a man. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Number 3, ignoring machine maintenance. Ignoring machine maintenance. What's the machine? The machine is the body. The machine is the body's ability to do everything that it does, which is not only, ambulate and physically do things and move them in the real world, but it's also the machine that houses our consciousness and generates and influences significantly the states that we're in, that we might not directly associate with the moves that we make, but you could be in a bad state because you didn't get enough sleep and make all sorts of fucked up decisions, self-sabotaging along the way. Right now I'm I'm like 236 right now, 235, 236. I was once in the 290s, 280s, 290s for like a couple of weeks, but I was in like the 270s, 280s for like over a year at one point. Always tired. Not a lot of patience. I would actually try to not endeavor to do too much because I just didn't have the mental energy to really want to get after it. And it's like, yeah, all of these feelings were driven by a machine that was just suboptimal, to say the least. When we do not maintain the machine, we self-sabotage before we've even entered the fray, before we've even gotten on the path. We're already sabotaging the very shell, right, that houses the consciousness to be able to go and deal with all these stresses, to be able to solve these problems, to navigate these obstacles. Like the very machine that we're taking along that journey, we are sabotaging when we do not maintain the integrity and the optimal, approach to maintaining that machine. So when we ignore machine maintenance, I once had a coaching student who, great guy, told me he needed to lose weight. And I believe his phrase was, well, respectfully, I want to push back a little bit, he said, something to that effect. And he said, I don't care about losing weight and getting in shape. I care about making money. And what I told him, very smart dude, very capable, accomplished dude, I told him, well, with all respect, when you walk into a business or into a meeting room wearing your suit, looking like a wrapped fucking sausage, and you're about to make some sort of offer for an opportunity with another individual, what do you think he's looking at when he's looking at you? looking like you're 4 jumping jacks away from a fucking heart attack. Like, just how much faith is he supposed to have in entering into some sort of business alliance with you, right? And maybe it's not as, over the top, the imagery that comes into my head when I'm thinking about it. But at the very least, is it not an inconsistency? The guy who says, I'm all about success, climbing the ladder, being successful. But then you look at how he approaches taking care of the machine, and it's something that he ignores. At what point, because we know how important, how significant the body is, right? Like, nobody schedules a heart attack when they have them, right? It's never on the schedule. How can I be having this heart attack? It's not on the calendar. It's not the way the body works, right? But when we're looking at an individual who's ignoring their body to that level, at what point in our relationship does he start ignoring me? Because I'm not going to be as important to him as his fucking body is, and look at him ignoring that. So when we ignore maintaining the machine, there are a lot of different ramifications as a result, right? And more than we would imagine with just a cursory thought about the topic, right? Some comments here. All right, man, you guys got a lot. Judge Cohen says, how do you maintain the machine causes people to draw all sorts of conclusions about the things they can't see? Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. When you show up, have somebody know that they are standing in front of somebody who values strength. Guys, you don't need 6-packs. I've never had a 6-pack in my fucking life. Right? Let's not get it twisted, right? But when you're somebody who doesn't have a relationship with what their body can do, and you don't have any gratitude with what your body does for you, people are going to realize that. Your energy is going to be off. It's going to be inconsistent, right? As men, we're not the most consistent creatures, but that is one of the things that we endeavor to be, consistent. We're not supposed to be perfect, but what a more noble goal than perfection? We don't become so arrogant as to think we're going to reach it. But at what point was there a better alternative than trying to eliminate our flaws? Let's get to the next one. Playing perfect. Playing perfect. So what does this mean? When a man plays perfect, he pretends he is without flaw. He doesn't own his mistakes, is what it comes down to. See, when we have obligations, people are going to track what we're doing because we have obligated ourselves to them. There is no oath that is not written in ink. So when we want the status that comes with being somebody that complies with a certain way of being, right? I want to be thought of as the hero, let's just say. Well, I've said before, in other talks, you can't be a hero if you haven't slayed the dragon, right? So without step one to being a hero, you need a dragon, right? What is the dragon? The thing that represents the threat to everybody, the risk to you looking to engage it, and then you have to overcome it. That's hero shit. But somebody who wants to be a hero without slaying the dragon is the person that creates the dragon, the person that creates the story that tries to culminate with him being the hero at the outcome of it. People are always watching. One of the things that I've gotten feedback from or for over the years from people that I've worked with is one of the reasons I connect with UMC is that you're fucking authentic. What you see is what you get. Well, I'll tell you, a lot of that is by design. When I wrote my book a couple of years ago, I very consciously put in the story that I was locked up as a teenager. It's not something that I've ever hidden. Why? Because as soon as I act like that wasn't something that molded me into who I am today, is the minute somebody can hold it over me. right? People's skeletons in their closets are things that sometimes they will spend a lifetime trying to hide. One of the easiest ways to not have somebody exploit you and your skeletons in your closet is to own them. Yeah, maybe you don't put them in a closet to begin with, right? But just be very careful about trying to pretend you are perfect where you are flawed. Like, the thing is, everybody knows, like I've said before, it's very hard for me when I build an alliance with somebody to trust them if I've spent a significant amount of time with them and I haven't seen their flaws. They're inconsistent, because we all have them. We all have these deficiencies. We all have these, maybe they're inconsistencies. Maybe it's just a lack of capability, whatever it is. When I've spent a certain amount of time with somebody and they're still perfect, I know they're putting on an act. I can't trust them. You want to be authentic? Be real. When I write my emails, a lot of times I read them and it's like, yeah, I wanted to read like I sound. I wanted you to read it almost in my voice, after you've spent some time with my material and you get used to my voice. Like, I want you to read my emails in that voice. But if I'm writing in a way that's so different from that, then I'm making it impossible. I'm appearing to be two different people. You can't play perfect. People are going to see, and they're going to know you're full of shit. And what winds up happening, at some point, you work not to grow, you work to hide your deficiencies so you could maintain this perfect facade that everybody knows is bullshit, right? All right. Let's get to number one. The number one way men love self-sabotage. They love smelling just like their shitty friends. So, smelling like their shitty friends. We've all heard, hang out with 9 broke people, you'll be the 10th. Hang out with 9 losers, you'll be the, like, there is an understanding, right? The old, I think it was Jim Rohn, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. There's all these old wisdom type observations that inform us that we are going to be heavily influenced, if not constructed completely, by the associations and alliances we keep. If I'm talking about how does a man self-sabotage, how does a man compromise his ability to climb his own ladder? One of the most common ways, it is number one in this list, one of the most common ways is he anchors himself with alliances, with allies that refuse to climb also. I've said before, loyalty is an investment, not a debt. I can't believe he left, he left me because, look at everything I did for him. Well, did he sign some sort of fucking agreement when you did all that stuff for him? Or you did it to own him? Are you helping people to own them? Or are you helping people because it is an investment in an alliance where both parties wind up benefiting? That's what an alliance is. One of the, probably some of the most important work I do with a lot of business owners when managing the culture in their businesses, the culture in their workplaces, is this idea of what type of environment are you exposing them to? Because they are going to regress to the mean. The guys that are on top, you keep them long enough, they're going to get a little bit lower. But the fact that they're on top and so much further away from the mean than most people, that'll raise, the default line of value for the group. This is a dynamic that I have a lot of systems and formulas addressing because of how significant it is. If you ever watch Alliance Codes, one of my programs, the idea of bad apples, right? The concept of a bad apple. It's not fucking rocket science. What am I talking about when I say a bad apple? The old phrase, the old wisdom is one bad apple spoils the bunch. There's something to be said for the diseased nature of a diseased individual and the effect that that individual is going to have on the group. Well, what about when you got a fucking bag of bad apples? You're going to tell me you're the good one in the group? That's not the way it works. And this is where a lot of men go wrong with this concern. It's like, well, they still identify as a good apple. It's like, well, it's not fucking up to you because we're all looking at you. And if you're hanging out with a bunch of bad apples, you're just as bad as they are to us. It's just the way it is. You have a bunch of people that they want to achieve, they want to get to level 5 in life. You say you want to get to level 10. Like, you think you're going to get to level 10 with a group of level 5ers? It's just not the way it works. I'm loyal. I'm a loyal guy. Well, if you're fucking loyal, there's a priority of loyalty, right? Let's put aside the investment, not a debt thing, right? Just put that in the shelf for a second. Let's just talk about priority. I think that's more universally accepted. A lot of people don't agree with me when I say loyalty is an investment, not a debt, right? They don't agree with me. I would agree with them, but then we'd both be wrong. But let's put that on the side for a second. Let's just talk about priority. Okay, you want to be loyal. Are you not supposed to be loyal to yourself? Because if you're not loyal to yourself, what good are you? What good are you to anybody else? Then when it comes to yourself, is it not your family? Is it not the people that, that are the most overlapped with who you are as an individual, the people you grew up with, the people that, you share your culture, identity, rituals, history with, like maybe your living situations? Like, are they not, in terms of priority, the next in line after the self? At what point do these people that you hang out with, these people that make you feel good about yourself in your friend circle, at what point does the loyalty to them trump those other two loyalties? I don't think this is controversial. I don't think this is too complex to understand what I'm trying to say here. It just makes sense. Layer on top of that, loyalty is an investment, not a debt. You invest in you, yeah, you're gonna get a reward. You invest in your family, you're gonna get a reward. You invest in people who are losers. I remember my brother, I think, wanted to buy a boat with my dad. It's the first time I ever heard the phrase, because my father said, a boat is like a hole, an old saying that I never heard of, to the point, a boat is like a hole where you throw money into the ocean. It's like when you invest in losers, it's not your job to change people's nature. It's not your job to convince people to be awesome. If you're hanging around people that they don't want to go to where you want to go, it's like we've already discussed earlier on in this talk that sometimes you reach for you're aiming for a level 10, and at 2, 3, 4 you find out you got to go a different direction. Well, these are people that don't even want to go there, so they're going to get even less. Usually the people that are shitty friends are the ones that fuck up every other thing on this list that I went over. But if you're an individual who's not looking to self-sabotage, remember, self-sabotage, you're fucking up yourself before anything else gets a chance to fuck you up, right? It's like getting in your own way is not something that we should be trying to do, right? So that is the list. I see a bunch of comments here. And man, I appreciate you guys writing all of them. But I think I got everything out that I wanted to. Let's conclude with, gents, if you are not in the Three Roads tribe, I think we have 30 people. I think we just reached 30 people. It's $9 a month. I'm there. There's content already there. There are conversations going on there. There's going to be times where the other day was the first time, if I put out an email, sometimes I'll go and make a video to break that down and that idea. If you're talking about investing in yourself, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find more value for a man trying to maintain focus. Talk about doom scrolling. It's like, well, maybe we'll call this mission scrolling, right? Three Roads Tribe. It's where you mission scroll. You don't doom scroll, right? Let's become better. Let's climb our ladders. Let's climb our mountains. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I'll be here next week. Don't worry. I ain't going nowhere. But in the interim, go check out threeroadstribe.com. And as always, brothers and sisters, pressure to power.